Iran will soon face a crisis. Tehran's drinking water will run out in 14 days. There needs to be a lot of rain before then, but if you look at the weather forecast, that doesn't seem likely. I'm not joking, this is a really serious situation for Iran, so today, let's take a proper look at this issue. Let's get started. According to Al Jazeera, the main water supply for Tehran, the capital of Iran, is expected to run out within 2 weeks. Iran is currently experiencing a historic drought. The drought that began this year still hasn't been resolved, and now there are even reports that drinking water will soon run out. Currently, the Amir Kabir Dam, one of Tehran's 5 water sources, has just 8% of its reservoir capacity remaining. The other 19 major dams in Iran also have under 20% capacity left. It's a serious situation. An Al Jazeera report in October cited a Tehran official who said the city's rainfall is at a once-in-a-century low, blaming the drinking water shortage on severe drought. Recently, it has been reported that water supply has been cut off several times in various areas of Tehran over the past few days. Due to the water shortage, they couldn't use water for industry or run generators, causing power outages. Bejad Parsa, president of Tehran Waterworks, said Tehran's population of over 10 million uses 3 million cubic meters of water daily. The Amir Kabir Dam, one of 5 supplying Tehran's drinking water, has just 14 million cubic meters left, and the other dams are similarly low. Last year, the Amir Kabir Dam held 86 million cubic meters of water, but now almost 70 million cubic meters are gone. Iran's water shortage crisis didn't happen overnight. The country has faced shortages for a long time. In July and August, they declared temporary holidays and closed 20,000 public restrooms in Tehran to save water. They also implemented rotating water cuts in different regions, but after conserving and conserving, now the water supply has reached its limit. It's said that Iran has used especially large amounts of water this year. This summer in Tehran was extremely hot, with most areas over 40 degrees and some regions in Iran topping 50 degrees, causing higher water use. This kind of heat wave has not only made things hotter, but has completely changed the pattern of water consumption itself. As temperatures rose, people showered more often and used air conditioners, water purifiers, and mist coolers much more. Heavy water use for street cleaning and car washing has nearly erased the impact of water-saving campaigns. The government imposed stricter rotational water cuts to prevent this, but it raised public anxiety and led to more water hoarding, worsening supply pressure. Some hospitals suspended operations due to water cuts, and schools also closed early. The government's response was temporary, leading to more public dissatisfaction with the Iranian government. This water shortage crisis had a direct impact on prices in Iran. The Iranian Control Agency reported fruit and vegetable prices rose up to 77% in autumn 2025 compared to last year. It is also reported that in just the past few weeks, fruit prices have surged by 10% at a time. A lot of water is used for agricultural purposes, but since they are restricting its use, that's pretty much why fruit has become expensive. As the prices of other food products are also soaring, it is expected that, following the water shortage, food shortages caused by skyrocketing prices will also occur. As a result, people's dissatisfaction is increasing. The rise in prices is not just a temporary reaction in the market, but reveals a structural crisis in Iran's overall economy. Due to water shortages, agricultural production has decreased and many farmers are unable to plant crops or are forced to give up halfway. Major crops in Iran like wheat, watermelon, potatoes, and tomatoes have been severely affected. Iran used huge amounts of water for food self-sufficiency, but now that system is collapsing. Dependence on imported food has risen quickly, and blocked imports from dollar shortages are making inflation worse. Recent media reports say egg and milk prices have nearly doubled in the past 3 months, and in some regions, people line up at dawn to buy bread. Citizens are expressing their anger, saying there is no water and nothing to eat. The reason Iran's water shortage has become this serious cannot be attributed solely to the climate. It's actually more about human factors. Iran relies heavily on agricultural water. Roughly 90% of all water is used for agriculture, mostly sourced from groundwater. As rainfall dropped and rivers dried, the government and farmers began overusing groundwater, claiming it was still available. There were about 50,000 groundwater wells nationwide until the 1970s. Now there are over 650,000, with more than half being illegal. As a result, the underground aquifers dried up before they could recover. When groundwater is drained, the ground sinks due to empty space. This is called ground subsidence. In some regions of Iran, the ground is sinking by up to 30 centimeters every year. If it's 30 centimeters a year, that's 3 meters in 10 years. When this happens, the foundations of buildings become unstable, roads crack, and farmland dries up. In the Barand region of central Iran, there have actually been cases where buildings have tilted and roads have become wavy like the sea. Farmers dig deeper wells frequently, but even those dry up after a few years. They dig another well and use more groundwater, despite scientists' warnings. They said Iran's groundwater is depleted and won't recover for centuries. The Karaj and Isfahan plains, once known for abundant water, have seen groundwater levels fall by over 40 to 50 meters. The bigger issue is that the government is neglecting the situation and at times even seem to encourage it. These policies may win farmers short-term support, but ultimately they will drain the whole country. After decades of this lifestyle, Iran now faces water bankruptcy. On the surface, it may still look like the water supply is running and farming continues, but now they've reached their limit. But with a record-breaking drought on top of that, they just couldn't hold out any longer. Normally, Iran's average annual rainfall is about 228 millimeters. But in 2024, the average annual rainfall was about 140 millimeters. And in 2025, it's expected that the average annual rainfall will be less than 100 millimeters. There just wasn't enough rain, and with human error added to the mix, that's how this disastrous situation came about. If the warning that Tehran's main water supply will run out in 2 weeks becomes reality, we'll be witnessing the beginning of a chain disaster that goes beyond just a simple water shortage. First, let's see what happens. As I mentioned earlier, if there is no additional rainfall while the water levels at reservoirs like Bir Kabir remain at around 8%, the water purification supply system for the capital area and nearby cities will gradually become paralyzed. The system that used to handle a daily consumption of around 3 million cubic meters will suddenly be pressured by the loss of supply sources, forcing the authorities to implement immediate consumption restrictions and extreme water cutoffs, which will directly threaten the normal operation of hospitals, schools, and industrial sites. Medical institutions will face issues in surgeries, hygiene, infection control, and sanitation due to water shortages. This is particularly deadly for children, seniors, and those with chronic illnesses. If toilet sewage treatment fails, urban sanitation will quickly decline, likely increasing hospitalizations and risking healthcare system collapse. Strategic issues are also serious. If cooling water for power plants and industrial use is scarce, blackouts will increase, further weakening water supply, sewage, medical care, and communications. There have already been reports of blackouts in some areas due to generators being unable to operate, so we are starting to see these phenomena little by little. The political impact on society is even more decisive. Water is one of the basic means of survival. If a person can't drink water for just 3 days, they will die. A water shortage will make citizens angry and protest in the streets. Since there have already been protests and complaints due to previous food shortages, if a water cutoff actually happens, the scale and intensity of citizens coming out into the streets could increase rapidly. In this process, there is a high possibility that internal power struggles over political responsibility will intensify. How much the Iranian regime is shaken depends on the government's response. Quick, transparent, and credible emergency action by the government can suppress immediate unrest. In a context of existing corruption, privilege, poor policies, and water distribution unfairness, the government's response could worsen the situation. For example, giving priority water supply or the next distribution to certain groups. If corruption is confirmed, it can lead to large-scale protest demonstrations, and when combined with other existing social discontent, it could escalate into a systemic crisis. The depletion of drinking water in Tehran is not just a temporary phenomenon, but could become the trigger for a multidimensional crisis encompassing all areas of Iran, including society, politics, and security. The government's response, the level of support from the international community, and above all, the pattern of resistance from civil society could combine to completely reshape Iran's political landscape. If there's truly a drinking water shortage, I believe the Iranian regime could collapse. Without heavy rain, this can't be fixed. How can they solve it? Importing enough water daily for 10 million people isn't possible. The Arab Spring started after bread prices soared, leading to Middle Eastern governments collapsing. So I believe the Iranian regime could also be seriously destabilized. What are your thoughts on Iran's current situation? Share in the comments. Thanks for watching.